Good morning, everyone. This is Matt Erpelding from the Boise Metro Chamber of Commerce, and I am very excited today to have with us Lynette Hoy from Firetalker PR. Our business education series has run for years in person inside of the Boise Chamber offices. But as many of you know, the changes that have occurred because of the pandemic, this is the first time we're going to have a virtual business education series, and we are extremely excited that Lynette has been willing to adapt her presentation to ensure that she's able to address issues and have something solid for us that will be streamed across the world. But before we get to Lynette, let me give you a brief introduction of her experience. Lynette Hoy is founder and CEO of Firetalker PR, a full-service boutique public relations firm going firm into her 9th year. She's created publicity campaigns that have earned hundreds of thousands of media placements over her 27 years in the public relations and marketing industry, inclusive of her work with Firetalker PR. Her clients have been featured in multiple media, including Fortune Magazine, Entrepreneur Magazine, CNN, TechCrunch, Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS network affiliates across the country, including daytime and evening programming, Good Morning America, NBC affiliate, King 5 in Seattle, local news, and a New Day Northwest, KGO, News Talk Radio, NPR, and many more. I'm excited at the amount of experience that Lynette has. So let me bring Lynette on. Lynette, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited about today's program.
I think it's going to be great. I'm excited to not be on screen. So before we go, what brought you and what made you interested in the Boise Chamber, and why have you decided to help us with our business education program?
Well, moving into the area a couple of years ago, just over a couple of years ago, the first thing that came to my mind as a business owner is to jump in and support the community that will support me. And I am a huge believer in the Chamber of Commerce. There's the International Chamber of Commerce. We have them in every major market in every city practically across the country. And so a huge part of my involvement just came from what I've been doing since the beginning of my career. And that's active involvement in the chamber with which I serve.
Well, we're excited to have you. I'm going to get out of the way and let you start your presentation, and I'll be back at the end with possibly a few questions. So thank you so much again, and I'll see you soon.
Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to be here, and this is different, right? Because so much of what we have going on has shifted and moved into a virtual presence. And that includes a workshop, which I was really looking forward to giving you in person. And now people from around the world will be watching. No pressure. The whole thing is there's a great deal of excitement around it. And as we move into this post-COVID era, there's just so many things that we need to be aware of now about being the go-to for the media and our next client that we really weren't considering before. So what we will cover today is why public relations is so critical and what it is anyway. And to be a part of the change, we need to practice social solidarity. And I'll be touching more on that, what it means for us in terms of media preparation and being there for our next client too. And then we're going to move into how we can prepare for interviews in this virtual world we're in. Right now, for example, very few people, I think 0, are being interviewed in studio, in television, also within radio broadcast studios, the same thing. We're not seeing a lot of in-person anything. It's all done virtually, and we're going to talk a lot about that. And then finally, we're going to move into an acronym that I call WORK, because it takes a lot of work to be the go-to for the media and your next client, and we're going to explore that acronym and what it means to you and what you can be doing to move your business forward and to be there in this crazy time. What is PR anyway? I'd like to give a little explanation about that and a little mini tutorial, because so often we look at public relations in the wrong way. And moving into this new time that we're all embracing, if you're not embracing, embrace, It really means a lot about who we are as people, how we communicate with others in the general public, and that public for us as business owners or for people that work within a business or an organization like the Boise Chamber or other nonprofits and businesses all across the country and around the world, we have to be more vigilant than ever in terms of how we're showing up. Because public relations is all about not only your internal public, which is your family, your friends, your employees, everyone that's around you that is in some way affected. They're all stakeholders, by the way, in your business. And then we have our external public. The external public is everybody else. And by the way, on social media, your private Facebook page, not so private, and they become everything on social media, everyone that follows you, all these people that you communicate with, they become your internal and external public. Because not only are they in your living room on your screen when you're posting and so on, but you're visible all over the world. So it's something that's going to grow in intensity as we move forward into this new time. And it's something to really be aware of and think about. And when we're thinking about public relations, the Public Relations Society of America really came up with the whole internal, external public relations. And this dates back decades and decades because so many people look at it in terms of, well, whatever goes on at home goes inside my house, really has no reflection on my job, my work, and nobody needs to know everything I talk about. Well, here's the thing. We just don't know what we don't know now. Look at your Google Home devices. I can't tell you how many times my Google Home has suddenly decided to chime in on a conversation that I'm having. And that's something that's really important to think about. If you do want absolute privacy, also make sure your children aren't listening. Because what we say at home and how we present ourselves and talk about people and our businesses, so much of this has everything to do with perception. How our children perceive us, our neighbors, our friends, what we're saying out here in the external world should definitely reflect on what's going on in the internal world. I'm guessing if you really want to go hog wild, go in your car, shut the door, have a close friend with you, and perhaps then you'll be out of ear range of anyone that can be affected as a stakeholder by what you say, how you say it, and how that affects our businesses moving forward. So practicing vigilance is really important as we move into this post-COVID era. The other thing about public relations I want you to know that's really important is making a plan around it, how you're going to address things that pop up. What if you get something out there that you didn't want out there? What then? So remember that those stakeholders are a big part of what rules our world. So now more than ever, we want to be thinking about things like we want to think once before you act, think twice before you speak, and 3 times before you hit send. What that means is that little undo button before you send an email and it says, gives you the option to undo. If you have anything that in your mind says, this might not go over well, click undo. Better yet, don't send it at all until you've had a chance to really evaluate it. And this here from Free Your Mind and Think, this acronym for think, I love it. I've heard it many times and there's been slight variations, but it can't be more pertinent for what we're doing right now because everyone is communicated on social media on various platforms from LinkedIn to Pinterest. So think before you speak, basically. Remember when we were kids and our moms taught us, think before you speak. If you can't say anything nice, say nothing at all. That was one of my favorites I got all the time, being an outspoken child. And it cannot be anything that we overlook now. This is so deeply important. So as we move forward in talking about vigilance, there's a quote here that I don't know how well you can see it on this screen, but I'm going to read it to you because it's really pertinent to what we're going to be discussing today and moving into managing our publics. We are all in this together, and no one of us is safe until all of us are safe. This is also true for businesses across industries. We all exist in interdependence and can only come out of this in one piece if we stay united. I'm going to explain a little bit more about that. This is from Shinaz Bapuji, Chief Marketing Officer of Shopmatic from India. And I cannot express upon you that element of solidarity, how important it is for us moving forward. And you might be thinking on the local level, here in the Boise, Idaho area, what does this have to do with me? I think very differently than some people in this country. I think very like some of people in this country. What does this have to do with anything? Well, it has to do with a feeling and an essence that goes around the world now. It's like Matt said, well, geez, for the first time, the business education series is online. We're live right now, Facebook Live. It gives me goosebumps because so many people are listening. And that's how things are going to be going forward. So if you're not moving yourself in a direction of helping others as a business owner or as someone that's working within the business community, if you're not a part of that solution of moving us forward and speaking well of our brothers, then we're in trouble. And I want to walk you through more of that. Solidarity means no rants. And I just yesterday spoke with a client of mine that sent me a post and said, Lynette, what do you think? Well, part of what we have to remember is respecting our differences, even if they don't make sense to us. And why is that important as a business owner? Because it can come back and bite you. It's a really horrible thing. So, for example, if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you're tired of being quiet. I'm a business owner, I'm a thought leader, I'm a leader in the community, but I feel this way. There's a way to get past that so that you can bring value to people around you. Remember, those stakeholders are so deeply important to how we run our businesses. Would you want to hire someone, for example, me? Would you want to hire me if I was constantly on my pages on social, regardless of whether it never hit my business page, talking about how sick and tired I am of certain things going on in the country? It would be single-minded to you as a consumer, as a business owner, as someone that needs someone like me to help you shape your business and your messaging and to help you get exposure and be the go-to for the media. You'd stand back, wouldn't you? You'd think twice. You'd think, well, gee, if she's this opinionated or she's this concerned with other things, how together is she going to be for me? And is what she is talking about, how is that going to affect me and how my business runs, my mission statement, my vision? So really think about how you are perceived. If you're positioning yourself to graduate up in your business and you want to be a public speaker, even more so to the point that rants must be kept a bit quieter. But it doesn't mean we can't rant. We just have to do it in a positive way that helps other people. So I have a little strategy for you to bring this to the forefront and also to leverage it for yourself going forward. And that's to keep a rant journal, because our goal is to be supportive as leaders. And if we in turn want to end up being a thought leader, boy, we better step up to the plate, right? We need to be able to be the calm in the storm. And even if you're a vivacious, outgoing person, that doesn't mean you can't be calmly and rationally speak in your mind about what's going on around you. So here's my advice. One, don't go home and kick the dog when you're mad. Don't go home and start an argument with your significant other or yell at the kids, tell them to shut up and sit down. That's what I heard as a child. And I hope that you'll give your children a voice. Here's another reason why those internal stakeholders, your children, the internal public, are so important for you. They're mirrors. They mimic. So if you are coming across as a fair, idea-producing thought leader, guess what? Your kids will too. And when they come to us and say wonderful things about who we are, for example, recently, Shelley G, I think all of you know in the greater Boise area, with Women Ignite, she wrote on a Facebook page that she has online something something that her child said to her in terms of, and I'm not going to get this verbatim, but her child came back to her with a note that the child wrote about what a great mom she was and how proud of her she was and what was going on. That's priceless. The way it was worded is what struck me because that's what Shelley shows up with. That's how she speaks to her children. And that's what she is hearing back. How beautiful is that? She was very touched. But I hope, Shelley, if you're out there watching, that you realize what an amazing leader you are because you're teaching your children how to be great citizens, how to be stewards of kindness and growth. And that's internal and external, right? So back to our rant journal. Let's say you just listened to Fox, CNN, a major news network across the country. We can see them all now, right? And it made us crazy. Whatever it was we didn't agree with, it affects our business, this legislation, whatever it is. And we're angry about it. We're frustrated. Well, instead of instantly jumping on Facebook or jumping on LinkedIn, writing an article, even if you provide links with background and history, no. Go home, write it in that journal. Keep it with you if you must at work, but I really recommend, because we don't know who's going to see something, take it home, keep it at home. Make your notes, keep it in your head. Trust me, a rant is not going to go away. In fact, it will generally increase steam. Go home, write it out, and hand write it out. Don't type it out, because remember, when we type on our computers, on our keyboards, and we're pushing this information out there, it has a flow that we don't want to show up elsewhere. So therefore, write it so it stays in this area, stays in the same place. And I say this from experience and what I've done for myself in my business, in my life. And you can imagine with a fiery personality, you have fiery opinions. So it's important to keep those rants private until you can then provide them to the communities that you serve and those that support you with a piece of calm, a bit of calm. Turn those negative statements around into something that can help others navigate what's going on around them. So write it, go back and evaluate it, walk away. And walk away, by the way, is in between each one of these bullets. You're going to rewrite it, think about it. Now, the rewrite, let's explore that a little bit. When you rewrite a rant, it's about taking what you just wrote and spinning it, as they say in the PR world. And by the way, a publicist like myself, we don't spin things to make them untrue. That's a fallacy that went out decades and decades ago. It's not a truth. What it's about is making words matter. Making words matter. We want to be of service. So when people come to me and they're putting together platforms, working with my clients, I say, why don't you send that my way and let me work on it a little bit so that we tighten it up and we make sure that the verbiage we're using is of service, that we're showing up with our hearts, not just our minds, but our whole self. So when you evaluate and you get into that rewrite portion, those hard-hitting sentences, we put a little muscle, a little massage to them, and we make them of service. So if it's something negative, we make it without pointing a finger. And if you want more information on that, let's say you have something you want to put out there. I am offering everyone on this call, everyone on this Facebook Live, if you put in the chat your email and your first and last name, because often our handles don't include that, and say, I want Lynette's 15 minutes. And Matt will be getting back to me and letting me know. And let's schedule a time because I really want to help you through this fiasco in this world that we're going through on multiple levels. So if you're concerned and you want to really help, but you're not quite sure that you're hitting the mark with your verbiage, reach out to me. Let's talk about it. And let's make sure that your mind is in the right place. Because when you post, before you hit send, you want to be sure. Here's another reason why that post is important and why monitoring how and what we say is important. Because when the media wants to interview us. And there's a whole plethora of things that go on, which we're going to talk about in that work acronym to get us ready for the media, to make sure that we can be of service. And not only for certain media, but also our ideal clients because they're watching. How does that play in here? Well, what we put out there in the good old internet universe can come back and bite us when the media does research. Do you think they're not researching? Oh, yes, they are. We need to give them as much information and make it their job as easy as possible to be as part of being their go-to, but they're going to do their homework because who and what we represent, if it's not congruent with our business and our mission and our vision and what we're putting out there, they're going to check us off the list because they can't afford to have us be the authority that they ask for a quote on, that they interview, that they bring us in and give us a minute of their time and reaching out to everyone when what we're saying and posting is completely opposite of their mission and vision, let alone ours. Something to keep in mind. The other beauty of this rent journal is that we can go back and read it every quarter, which I have all my clients do when we're in this position. And I'm actually asking a lot of my clients now to do this because it's just so critical what we're putting out there and how we're putting it out there. So you go back every quarter. Don't keep going back and forth with it. Once you finish that rant, you've evaluated it, you've done your rewrites and posted, you're all good, but you want to keep it because as you go back once a quarter, and you're not going to be ranting every single day, I sure hope not, but you're going to go back and you read your entries. So in other words, it's not going to take you an entire additional quarter just to read your first quarter's rants, but go through them and see where the light bulb moments are, where your aha moments. Look for those and see how they might feed into everything you're doing within marketing and public relations to move you forward. There's going to be a lot of ideas hidden in your rants. How about that? It's crazy, but very true. So let's move forward. And we're going to now talk about how to prepare for the media now that we've got this little bit of a strategy behind us with a rant journal and how to leverage that. Oh, by the way, the rant journal, let's not leave it out where the kids can see it. I would venture to guess you actually lock it up or you put it way out of their reach. Here's what happens, especially with teenagers. And I could say I'm only talking from my own experience, but no, I don't have children, but I was a teenager, a small child. Kids will go through your drawers, look under your mattress, go through your desk because they're looking for chocolate. Yes, they are. They're looking for candy. They're looking for stuff. So be very careful about where you hide your rant journal because, again, the mirror and the repetitive nature of what children see, hear, feel, read, they will speak, even if they don't know what it means. Something to keep in mind. Now, as we look at how to prepare in today's virtual world, I want to take a moment and congratulate Ray Allen of Pepperstruck Media. Consummate professional, someone that I have learned a lot from. As we're moving in to this virtual world, which by the way is not going anywhere anytime soon, we need to have really great backgrounds. And the background you see behind me, from what I'm seeing right now on the screen, I believe is the same thing you're seeing. And I see that my logo, my banner that's running to the side, that's vertical, is cut off a little bit. This is something that you're going to want to explore. So whatever your virtual background or literal background is, you need to do a little reconnaissance mission there. Look into everything that could go wrong and everything, how it might show up or not show up. And a really great way to get around it is to talk to someone like Ray, who her team creates these great virtual backgrounds. If you've seen any of her workshops recently or any of her events online, she's had some really dynamic, actually things moving, virtual backgrounds. So I would reach out to Ray too and see what you can do about enhancing that. Something else that I have learned recently, in fact, on one of Ray's events and other events that I've attended online, and this is about how this world is shrinking. If you have planned to do an event locally, and of course it was called off because we're still not gathering in huge mass yet, in most of the country, we're not at all. So it just depends on where and what and when, right? Many of our larger conferences that we have been invited to speak at or attend around the country have been canceled until next year, till 2021, and also into 2022. Now, some of these events have been really smart in how they move forward, and I encourage you to do the same. And I learned a lot from Ray in this matter. What you do is create those goodie bags, those swag bags in advance, and you mail them. Brilliant, right? And you want to support your local community. So as you give your event, you hold your workshop, you hold your presentation, whatever it is, at the end, you also set your attendees up with a way to join you for a little after party, be it a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, a beautiful brew from one of our local breweries across the country. And in the local environment, you want to support your local businesses, right? So therefore, set it up with them in advance, let them be a sponsor, have them come on in. And what Bray did was she gave a $15 credit out to everyone that attended and encouraged people to jump in. And beer was delivered to their door. Phenomenal cold brew, wonderfully crafted beer. And so we all got to jump on Zoom. We had an after party on Zoom. Everybody held up their goodies. And it was a wonderful way to, and many organizations are doing this around the country. It was a wonderful way to take what's going on around you and keep it local and also inviting other people across the country because you're sending out that swag bag. Wonderful things that we can be doing going forward. And it can save you a great deal of money. What if you want to put on a great event, but you don't have the wherewithal at this time? Maybe you're in startup mode, you're growing rapidly. How in the world are you going to show up and be able to do everything you really want to do? A virtual event. And now we're learning just how powerful they can be. And I can talk to you more about this offline, but do take note. Platforms like Zoom, StreamYard, what we're using right now for Facebook Live, amazing, which by the way, the media is using a lot of now. It is a broadcast channel. So many of these platforms are now doing turnkey operations with larger organizations. Zoom, GoToMeeting, they're doing turnkeys that are special for particular events and how they're doing things going forward. Not even 2 years ago, there were large upscale events, even with the Public Relations Society of America, where they were not streaming. You couldn't, if you were on one side of the country and the large conference is on the other side of the country in New York or Chicago, New York City or Chicago, you're out of luck. And that's a $5,000 deal when you're through paying for lodging and everything else. In fact, it might even be $6,000 depending on the cost of the conference if it's a 2 or 3 day conference. What in the world do you do? Well, now, instead of something ending up costing you $5,000, it can be $900 or $800. So there's certainly things, and companies are moving forward and they're stepping up to this challenge of all of us going virtual. So let's move on. It's really critical that we're prepared. Let's actually step back to preparing for the media. So we're going to go through those bullets. Being prepared to be on video, even for radio and podcast. Whoa, what does that mean? That means like me right now, I dressed up for you and I'm looking into the camera. I have a Logitech camera on the top of my monitor and I'm looking right into it. I do media coaching as well as part of my services for clients. And it's really difficult to look into this little camera on the top of your screen, let alone something that's embedded in your computer, on the monitor in your computer, like on a laptop and so on. So I always highly encourage people to jump in and spend the money, get a lighting system. Right now, I've got a decent lighting system here in my home office, and I've got a great camera. And those are wonderful stepping stones as you prepare to show up, to be there with the big guys. Part of what I offer in that media training is teaching you how to, here's something that happens. So if I look down and I'm looking at myself, or let's say that this is a live event, of course, so I'm not seeing a bunch of pictures of people like I would on Zoom. But if I'm constantly looking down and my shoulders are rounded, I lose you, don't I? You start looking around and you stop looking at me. But if I'm up here and I'm engaging you, which by the way is something really important, no matter if you're giving a sales presentation, whether you're preparing for the media, whether you're speaking to your staff in an employee meeting, a great place to learn these things is Toastmasters. And I can talk to you about that as well. Did you know there's nearly 900 members of Toastmasters? And that's just in the Treasure Valley alone in Idaho. And around the world, we have the International Toastmasters, and there's hundreds of thousands of members. It's crazy. But all of these people are truly spending that time to learn more. Now, when we're looking at media training, the thing to keep in mind is one of the best ways to learn is to watch the news. Perfect way to learn. Professional broadcasters do it right. A few things that I would recommend you do in preparation is make sure, and there's also a whole series of things that I offer, and this is going to be part of those of you that sign up and that have gone through the Boise Chamber of Commerce and we have your information. We're going to be sending you some downloads, and they're going to give you little mini lessons and ideas and things that you need to bring to the table and be ready for this virtual world. So using me as an example, that's a good idea. Coloring, what you're wearing, how I show up, I'm engaging you, you mean a lot to me, and I can see your faces. Maybe I've done enough speaking, I can see faces in my sleep. I don't know. But I can tell you that I know this means a lot to you and how you're showing up and growing your business and being the go-to, or you absolutely wouldn't be here. So learning how to show up. Buy a lighting kit online, go to Amazon, there's several of them. I will be providing that in what I give you in the download, is all the tips and tricks and things that you can do in that do-it-yourself mode. And by the way, all of this, of course, is do-it-yourself mode. I'm teaching you how to show up and what you need to do moving forward. Practice, practice, practice. You can do that looking in the mirror. Another way that you can do it is set up your lighting, do your whole thing, and practice like we are right now. Look right into the camera, do it on Zoom, and record. Only you're the only one in the room. You're the only one there. But record, and then play it back and see how you look. See how the lighting is. See how you're showing up. Do you have a brand presence? Are you wearing appropriate colors? So, for example, you don't want to show too much flesh. We all know what that means. We also don't want to show up with lots of stripes or things that can begin to vibrate. It's amazing how quickly color vibrates, even in today's high-tech world. So it's something to really be careful about. Hot colors, things like that. All of that will be laid out for you in the download. And by the way, if you're jumping on with us live right now, yay, glad you're here. Be sure to put your name and your email and say, send me the download in the chat. And we'll make sure you get that in case you didn't sign up through the Boise Chamber of Commerce website. So now we'll move on. And we're going to jump in to that acronym. We're going to spend some good time here before we jump into our Q&A. Now, the word work is perfect because it takes a lot of work. And in beginning that whole process, we have to look within. So as we examine work, that first W is about looking within. And I love this picture. This dog is digging this hole, and he just looks disappointed almost. I don't know if it's disappointment that he didn't find what he was looking for digging down there, or wonder, maybe there's water seeping up in the hole. Who knows? And that's a great metaphor for looking inside yourself, looking within. When you begin to dig deep, what surfaces? For this little guy here, this dog, this gorgeous little dog, something's got his attention. What is it for you? What is it that surfaces for you when you start thinking about being interviewed by the media? And this doesn't always mean that you are on television, but it does mean that we need to show up and look correct. But looking within, that takes it a step deeper than that even. What is it that means a lot to us? And one of the ways to do that is look at the people that follow you. And there's a way to do it. If you can't find it, you can always email me or send me a message on my Facebook page at Firetalker PR. And we can get back to you and give you a little guidance in terms of how do I find who's following me. Now, Facebook moved things around, but we can still see who's following us. Look at your followers. And if you've got thousands of followers, you've got some work cut out for you. But I would most certainly take the time and just do a scan, see who's out there, look for names and people that you think may be really involved in the work environment that might be your next client. And you just never know till you try. You can even hire someone, you can have your teenager do it and click on those people's profiles and see what's important to them. Most of their information might be private if it's a private Facebook page, but that doesn't mean that there's not going to be something showing up. So look to see what means something to them. If they're very involved in politics and they are not being diplomatic or respectful, that may not align with you. So you want to back off a little bit. Look at how they're showing up in terms of their desires and needs. Looking deep at them. If they post a lot of pictures about family, then you know that's something really important to them. If they post pictures about travel, that's huge. Now, if you're a travel agent and you're not looking at who's following you or a person in finance or real estate, you could really be missing out. If you're a real estate broker or agent and you're looking for new clients and people are following you, they're right there waiting for you. So clicking on their pages and just seeing what's out there, what's important to them, so that you can hone in on that. Maybe they love open land. If you're a broker, then you might be thinking about posting something or doing a special project around finding properties with land associated with them so that people can have animals and plant gardens, and maybe it's a couple of acres. And maybe you find this again and again and you think, okay, I'm going to put together a special platform for people. It's just an example. If you own a car wash, maybe you look to find out people really love scents in their cars. Maybe you look to find out that somebody went through your car wash and they didn't like the scents. They're not they're not taking you out of their world, but they made comments about it that they maybe didn't make on your business page because they're trying to be respectful, perhaps, or maybe they're just commenting about something that has to do with cars or dirt, whatever it is. Just look for those things. Look deep. Go past the surface and find out what's important to people. So now as we move into the O of opportunity in work, I want you to stop and think about how what you're doing in preparation for the media and to be the go-to for your next client, like we were just talking about with the W, also think about what opportunities exist for you as a business owner or a person in business, a professional. What opportunities are out there for you to make a difference in the world around you and being of service? And that's also very important to the media. The other thing to remember is if there are media people following you on social platforms, be it LinkedIn or whatever, you want to look at them. Find out why they're looking at you. Maybe send them a little note. Hey, saw you stopped by my profile on LinkedIn. If you have a premier page and you have access to all that look your way, find out why they're there and see how you can then be of service. So you look a little deeper, and now we're going to look for opportunity, not only for growing our business, but how to be of service to the community that we serve. And the community that we serve includes the media. How about that one? By the way, we're not worried about fake news here and all of that. That's not what we're about in becoming a go-to for the media. We're about being of service. We want to be the person that they call to get our credible opinion, to get our thoughts on how we're serving the world, how we see changes affecting small business that's going on around us. Let's say, for example, that you're Bill Connors, the CEO of the Boise Chamber of Commerce, and Kate Morris, who is the general manager and president of KTVB, local NBC affiliate here in the Boise area, KTVB Channel 7. What if she set it up with one of her reporters, broadcasters, to interview Bill, which has happened, about a particular subject of concern to the community? And because he is also a stakeholder and because he is also very active in supporting business, he is a perfect person because he also has the pulse of what's going on politically and changes that are happening. It's an enormous responsibility that Mr. Connors manages extremely well. So if he showed up unprepared and he was in the upper right-hand corner because he didn't come into the studio, and he's in a t-shirt and his hair's messed up, and he starts talking poorly about different people, and he's just unprepared, that's going to really not bode well for the business community or everyone that sits in the board of directors with the Chamber of Commerce, correct? Now that goes for any organization across the board. We need to be prepared so that when we speak, there's no ranting, there's no highly pushy opinions, but things that are of service. And I can give you several examples, and I actually have in the download that you're going to sign up to receive. It's sometimes really difficult to think about how you would show up. And I also do online media kits for my clients. And in the online media kits, we dig really deep and we lay out everything that the media could possibly need, even future clients, investors. It's a really exciting process, and it really opens your eyes and you learn so much. And I love working on those with clients. Something to think about is that you don't want to go on and on. When we look at opportunity and we're being interviewed live, we want to give a sound bite and encourage the person that's interviewing us, whether it be in writing, whether it be over live television or radio. We want to give them the opportunity to ask us another question, perhaps. So if we give a long monologue around a question that's being asked of us, not only it's a little self-serving, but it's also not giving the opportunity for engagement. So if you're asked about how people can make sure their assets are protected in this post-COVID era that we're entering into, you want to give a couple of examples. Well, with my company, we've seen this, and this happen, and our clients seem to find a lot of value. And we've seen this going on in the world around us, that when they follow this protocol, that seems to work really well for them. And yes, and that opens the door for another question. So the longer you can stay live, the better. And you never want to, well, I think this. That's not why you're there. You're there because you're giving your expertise. You've got an opportunity to shine. And you're helping the world around you while you're doing it. Because every broadcast is now international, and it has been for quite some time. I think we're just now beginning to wrap our heads around what that looks like. Here's something else I want to talk about when we're looking at opportunity and our acronym work. Think about who you can get involved with, a local nonprofit. Many people don't understand, especially when the world's in crisis, and equally as important when we're not in crisis. To be involved with the community is huge. It's also newsworthy. It's not just from a philanthropic standpoint in general that gets overused, but again, look within, dig deep, that first W, and look at how what you're doing as a business, how you can tie in with a local nonprofit and really help them make a difference in those they serve because it aligns with your mission, it aligns with your vision, it aligns with what you stand for. So think about that one. And again, you want to talk to me about it? I'm giving you 15 minutes of my time to run an idea past me. Put that email and your first and last name if you're not already signed up with to receive my downloads because I will reach out to people that are on the call with the Boise Chamber or those of us that are here local. We are all members and I'm here for you. And I know you're bursting with questions and some of them might be a little personal that you don't want to just put in the chat. And that's why I want to open the door for you to reach out to me. So how can you be of service? And then that's when the media wants to say, wow, that's a great idea. I love how you partnered with this organization. And this is how I would really like to look at it. Something Kate Morris and I, the vice president or the president and general manager of KTVB Channel 7 have talked about is Toastmasters. I'm a member and I'm the exiting public relations manager for the district, which is enormous. It's like 2 states and then some, Idaho, Utah, and beyond. And we have talked about, and I'll be revisiting this with her, the importance of Toastmasters in creating leaders. And boy, now more than ever. So look to where you can partner to help those nonprofits make a difference. Because it's not about you or your company. That's going to be natural, you see. That will show up all on its own without your help. So let's move on and move into our R in work. Yes, you guessed it. You have to get your hands dirty. Research. Research and research until you are sick of it, and then do some more. What does that mean? And I'll breeze through this quickly. It means, because I'm going to also be giving you more of this in the download that you'll be receiving, give you some more points and tips and links and things to read and ideas. Look for who covers, and many of you have heard this, look that there's something more. Look for who covers what it is you're interested in, your business, your passion, your purpose. Who's covering that type of information? Wow, we've got the internet. We can really do some serious damage in research. We can do some serious looking. Look for those journalists that are writing about our topic that interests us, that has to do with our business, and find out how you can be of service to them in providing them, not only with your expertise, but ideas around stories. And it takes a lot of time, it does, and many of us don't like to watch television or listen to the radio. I don't get that, but then again, I'm a public relations professional and I love it. If I didn't, I guess I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing. But it's how you find out where to get a story for your client, where to get a story for yourself with Fortune Magazine and Entrepreneur and CNN. Who are the players? Who's involved? And how can you make a difference? Find out where they play. Find out where they go. Where do they hang out? Where else do they write? If they write for Entrepreneur Magazine, for example, you can bet your bottom dollar that they write for somebody else. Do your homework. Find out what's important to them. Find out how you can make a difference. Comment. Comment on their stories. And don't just say, oh, great story. I really enjoyed it. Super. Okay. What's more important for us, our purposes here, in learning and finding out more about them, say something about that article that moved you. I liked your point on XYZ. In my business, we focus on this to make lives better, but very minor. Don't make it a plug for your business. It's just about who you are. And if you're like me, I live and breathe Firetalker PR. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about it, and helping people gets me up in the morning. So think about it from that standpoint, and the rest will follow. I can tell you more about research, but it's also going to include watching the news, several different types of news. So whatever side of the fence you play on, leave the fence. Move on. And just think about it in terms of coverage and how you can help. So now looking at grit, it's really important, our K, that K means to keep trying. And a lot of people hear the words perseverance and this and that, but I can tell you, keep trying seems to sink in. And it's about perseverance, like this cute little girl here crawling up the stairs. And think about when we were children. When you fell down, you got up. You fall down, you get up. Crawl over to something, you pull yourself up. We don't even remember doing that. But we read about it in our baby books, and our parents tell us, don't forget about that perseverance piece. Without that, you don't have the word work. You don't keep trying, you don't keep working at it, it doesn't happen. I am really excited to be here today, and I really thank you for all of your time and energy and being here with me. And I'm really looking forward to some questions. And we're going to jump into a little Q&A right now, right, Matt? Oh, and before we jump into Q&A, I want to give you a little something something here and how to reach me. All the information is here. I will also be including it for everyone that reaches out to me and wants the 15 minutes with me, wants to get the downloads and so on, and I'll be providing you with the additional information. On firetalkerpr.com, there's also another download, free download there on successful tips. I encourage you to grab those as well. Lots of great information. And I think with that, we are ready.
Lynette, that was really great, and there was so much important information there. While you were talking, I had a question, and it stems to my following of current events. And as you know, the CEO of CrossFit was forced to resign over some incredibly inappropriate posts that he put on his page in a tone-deaf way that he thought was funny, that really wasn't funny and actually was inappropriate and cost him a position in a $4 billion company. So tell us a little bit more about that impulsivity that social media brings to people and how to really make sure that you are careful on that and not behaving like the former CEO of CrossFit.
Wow, that was a really tragic story. And this is happening everywhere. It's happening everywhere on every platform, even LinkedIn, which typically escapes that. But I will tell you, it's a sad state of affairs when other people become the bunt of our opinions, how we play on either side of the political fence, whatever it is. And in business, there's just no place for it. And what I tell people is to go back to that rant journal I was talking about. Even if you're not angry or frustrated and you're just talking about something overtly because you feel like it, here's the thing you need to do. Just don't do it. Because the repercussions of that internal and external public can hurt us, can squash our entire lives, like we've seen. And by the way, we will continue to see. Just yesterday, I talked one of my clients off the fence from posting a very elaborate writing, if you will, actually a mini blog that he was going to post on social media. There's just a place, time and place for everything. And when we are pointing fingers or dragging people down in some way, shape, or form that can be misconstrued, we just need to leave it out. It goes back to high school, college, right, Matt? When in doubt, leave it out. And as a leader of an enormous organization, to not take the time, shake yourself away from it and just say no. You leave yourself wide open to hurt so many people. Think of all the people that were hurt internally and externally there. All the stakeholders, share all of it. It's a crying shame, and it's just unnecessary, and it could have been prevented by something as simple as pulling out that rant journal, writing it out. And again, in a rant journal, maybe it's not exactly a rant. Maybe you call it posts for review. And that's a good way to look at it, Matt. Whatever we're going to put out there, write it out. Look at it later and ask yourself if it's appropriate. Here's another thing that happens. When we see things like this, when we see these posts and these things going on, it means there's not a strong public relations back to this. There's certain organizations and offices in our world right now that seem to not be affected by it. But in business, We most certainly are, from the small business, from the entrepreneurial to the startup to the multi-billion-dollar organization. So my advice, my thought around this is to go back to that rant journal or write it out, Matt.
There's a question in the comments that is about what's the most important information that a company should include in their media kit?
The most important information is really all the information. And
pages and pages and pages.
There's typically anywhere from 8 to 20 pages in an online media kit. Mm-hmm. Think of it in terms of opening the door to informing the media, making their life very simple, and those your next client and possible investors, they need to know everything about you. So there's really no most important part. You need to have a company overview, an executive profile, a breakout of your products and services. If you're an author and you have books, a book review, questions and answers, and there's a list of things. And I'm happy to provide that. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I can give them a list. And I am, Matt, going to be having a workshop in the near future, probably in the fall, around building an online media kit for your business and why it's important. So in answer to that question, it's all equally important. And it's about how you show up in your business, what type of business, as to the information that you include. So I think rather than the most important part, it's to look at what elements would I leave out depending upon the kind of business that I have. And that's something that I'll be teaching going forward. And whoever asked that question, feel free to reach out to me and let's have that 15-minute conversation.
Great. You know, one other question that maybe you can help clarify is this idea of media training. When I was in politics, I went through 2 courses in media training very early on, and I think that they were critical to my success in speaking to the media. Just give us a little bit of an overview or just a quick bit of insight into what media training actually means, because I mean, the simplicity of it is look directly at the camera. And okay, but there's a lot more to it.
Yes, there is. And I have trained thousands of CEOs over the years in small training groups, larger training groups. Here's the thing. How you speak has everything to do with how successful you are. For example, if you use a lot of ums, ahs, so's, right? Yeah, it will shoot you directly in the foot. It's distracting and it takes away from your level of authority. So when I work with people in media coaching, it's a beginning to end thing. Something to remember is, again, looking into the camera, watching how you speak. Toastmasters is a great way to inexpensively go after learning how to not do that. So I would recommend that. The other thing is how you show up and what you're wearing. You don't want things that vibrate, and you want to make sure that you're also ready to pivot or shift when you're thrown a question you're not ready for. So when we're in the midst of media training, making sure that whoever you're on board with is preparing you by throwing questions at you. And that's in that learning environment where you learn how to answer those questions with dignity and humility.
And often media trainings require you to be videotaped while those difficult questions are being thrown at you, so that you can actually watch your own facial expressions when you feel stymied or when you're struggling. And you know, media trainings are extraordinarily valuable, especially to folks who really want to advance their presence both on social media and in the video world.
It's critical. It's critical because, for example, recently a colleague of mine had a client that it got away from them because it happened so quickly. And this is a part of what goes on with the media. One story gets dropped and they call you on the phone and they say, can you be ready in 5 minutes? We'd like to bring you on the air live via Zoom, via StreamYard, and we'd like to interview you about XYZ. So being prepared, not only in being able to shift, but yes, being able to look into the camera, be comfortable with video, and understand what that's all about. So for example, Matt, right now you're looking down, and I can see you're not looking directly at me in the camera. That can be as simple as putting books under the monitor, whatever it is, to lift so your eyes are actually level with the camera.
Yeah.
That video thing is so critical. You're absolutely right. And with my clients, I do a lot of it's a little better. I do a lot of one-on-one training. We do a lot of trial and error, and we have fun. If it gets too serious, you pull away and you're not open to change. You got to smile. So that training is so deeply critical, and it's something that I do a lot of. And I think right now, more than ever, even if you just did a series of trainings, depending on what you're doing in the political arena, that's enormous.
Right. You know, last question as we kind of finish up. You've been doing this for 20 plus years. You're an expert in the field. What is the biggest thing that you found that helps keep your passion? Your presentation was filled with that passion. What are you doing to maintain that and avoid burnout?
Well, that's a tough one, because I think if you really love what you do, and I do clearly, it's what gets me up in the morning, and I know how deeply important public relations is for business growth in many capacities.
Yeah.
If you're not madly in love with what you do, you got an issue. But the main thing that keeps me going, keeps me on my game, keeps me loving it, is to avoid overwhelm. And when you have an outgoing personality, or if you don't, you can still end up just burning out to where you can't think of anything to say. You can't get through it. So my advice, what I do to keep my passion moving, is I make sure to take time out. Go for the walks. I live on a horse property right now. I play with the horses. I get out in my neighborhood and I look at the animals. I breathe the beautiful fresh air. And for me, that revitalizes me. So finding whatever that is that revitalizes you and doing it every single day, sometimes multiple times.
That's great. Well, before we go, I want to put your information back up on the screen so people will know how to contact you. So I'm going to put it up, and I'm going to provide you with just one more opportunity. Oops, wrong person. To promote yourself. I'll cut myself out.
Hi. Thank you so much for being here today, and I hope all of you on the replay enjoy it as well. And I encourage you to reach out to me via email, Lynette@firetalkerpr.com, and tell me what's your biggest problem. What are you facing? What questions do you have? What don't you understand? Reach out to me, and let's set a time to talk.
You know, we at the Chamber are just incredibly thankful for these education series, and I know how much effort you put in to make this happen, and then how much we work together just to make sure that this whole thing would work. Thank you so much, and thanks to our viewers. Lynette, that was fabulous. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.